Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 704 High School Highlight Podcast. My name is Jeff Taylor. I'm the sports director here at Bahakel Sports. Thanks for checking out our podcast this week. Now, our podcast is brought to you by the Downer Law Firm. They are Charlotte's hometown legal team. If you're ever injured in an accident, make sure you contact the Downer Law Firm and they will take care of you. And we want to thank them for being our sponsor, both with the podcast and some other stuff we do for high school sports around the area. So, what do we want to talk about this week? Well, it's near the end of November. We're getting to Thanksgiving. The air is crisp. You're getting into that fall weather. The nights are a little cooler. Well, of course, we're going to talk playoff football. And for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, quite a few of them are still left in the North Carolina high school playoffs. And 3 of the 4 teams that are left in the 4A West bracket are from right here in Charlotte. We're talking about Weddington. We're talking about Indy. And we're talking about Butler. Now, this coming Friday night, Weddington is going to play host to Grimsley. Grimsley is out of Greensboro. They lost the 4A state championship game last year, so they're looking to get back to that state championship game and win it this year. Weddington is going to be a tough out for them. However, Weddington is the number 1 seed. They are playing some great football. Last Friday night, they took it to Charlotte Catholic and defeated them with really no problems. Coach Andy Capone has that team motivated. They got knocked out last year. They're the number 1 seed. They got a lot to play for, and they want to move on. So Grimsley and Weddington, they play, of course, on Friday night. The other Friday night game here in the Queen City, I don't even know how to explain it other than it is beyond huge. We're talking about Indy taking the trip over to Butler. These 2 schools have a rich history of winning, and not only winning games, but winning state championships. And they're coached by 2 of the best coaches in our area. Coach Brian Hales, who is kind of the veteran of a lot of the coaches here when you talk about coaching in the Queen City, and then DJ McFadden, who is one of the just up-and-coming coaches here in the area. He played at Independence. He played under Tom Knotts, and now he is coaching a school he wanted to coach at. So Indy and Butler, they play Friday night, and I can promise you it's going to be epic. This game means a ton to everybody involved.
Packed house, a busy box score, an iconic interception. A longtime rivalry renewed in spectacular fashion as the Patriots were crowned the King of the Hill for the first time since 2014.
Obviously, it was an amazing feeling finally beating them. I mean, they talk a lot with like what happened in the past with Butler and Independence, but then again, I wasn't here. I couldn't control it, so I mean, I'm 1-1 against them, and it's just a blessing to have the trophy.
Last year's victory also gave Independence the title of co-conference champions with both Butler and Charlotte Catholic, a false accolade that left a sour taste in head coach DJ McFadden's mouth. With both the outright conference title and the King of the Hill trophy up for grabs, there is much more at stake. These 2 coaches are no strangers to each other. McFadden leading the Patriots at quarterback against Brian Hales and the Butler Bulldogs, later coaching together on the same staff. Now they face off as colleagues both on and off the field.
Hales is an ultra competitor, man, just like myself. So he brings the best out of me as far as being able to prepare and lock in. And, I've been locked in all weekend because I know he's doing the same exact thing. I've been up all night because I know he's doing the exact same thing. So I like to think that he brings the best out of me and I bring the best out of him.
That combination of animosity and respect trickles down to the players and community as well.
I've been a part of that environment before. The crowd, sellout crowd, always jumping.
I think it's one of the best rivalries in the state. It's got that Duke Carolina feel to it. It always has.
With us being so close, I mean, some of these neighborhoods are split down the middle where you got a Butler family on one side of the street and Independence family right across the street. So it doesn't just benefit Butler and Independence, but East Meck benefits off of this. And Providence and Rocky River, everybody benefits because, the more kids you get playing, the more kids you get active in football, the better off it makes everybody.
Now, that game between Indy and Butler will be our Bahakel Sports Game of the Week. You can check that out Friday night at 7 o'clock. We will be streaming it live on bahakelsports.com. And right after that is over, you can stay on bahakelsports.com at 11 o'clock or flip over to WCCB News, where we will do the Blitz live at 11 o'clock on Friday night. We'll have all the scores and highlights from around our area, all the teams that are playing. We'll have a wrap-up from Indy and Butler, so make sure you check out the Blitz on Friday night. Now, to kind of get us ready for what these games mean, we had a chance to talk with Daron Vaughn. He is our play-by-play guy for Bahakel Sports. He always calls the games on Friday night. He's alongside Reggie Walker. He joined us on our show Game On this past Monday, and here's what he had to say about Providence Day actually winning their championship game, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes also. But Providence Day, they won the North Carolina Independent Schools Athletic Association State Championship, the NCISAA Championship, that past Friday night in Raven Gap. They had to travel down to Georgia. So Daron talked with myself and Jack Taylor a little bit about that. He talked a little bit about Indy and Butler and what's to come, and he also gave us a little preview of the Weddington-Grimsley game. Take a listen. And look ahead, we are joined by Daron Vaughn, who handles our play-by-play for Bahakel Sports on Friday nights. Daron, how are you, man?
I am exceptional. It's a busy time of year, but it's a great time.
It's a great time of year, absolutely, my man. Thanksgiving and football, baby.
Yeah, you had, 4 or 5 days in a row of calling games?
10 games in 10 days. Thanksgiving Day, the only day I actually get a breather. And, thankfully I'm going to get a lot of good food that day too, be able to recharge for the last couple as we keep the good news is we've got teams in it, so we're able to have another Bahakel Sports Game of the Week, and my Friday night is consumed in that way.
Yeah, don't oversleep Friday. We need you there Friday night.
Yeah. Won't have to travel as far. So let's start about talking.
Man, I was going to say, if I made it to Raven Gap, Georgia this past week, I think we'll be good if it's in Charlotte.
Right.
So give us a little recap of that one. Talk about traveling to Georgia, that rematch between Providence Day and Raven Gap. It was a big one for the NCISAA State Championship, and it came down to the wire.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was, I feel like I'm saying this every week as we have our games of the week. It might have been the best game we've had so far, and it was very much anticipated, a huge rematch. Raven Gap coach Derek White, when Reggie Walker, our analyst, and I spoke with him earlier in the week, he sort of continued to push the point that especially the best teams, it's really difficult to beat somebody twice. He was concerned. He had nothing but glowing things to say, of course, of Providence Day's quarterback, Jaden Davis. There are other players that star for them as well. But, PD was on the road and backs against the ropes in this game. In the fourth quarter, they were down double figures and managed a way to come back into it, even through Jaden Davis not being the best possible Jaden Davis over the past couple of weeks, because we saw some blemishes too in the semifinal game against Charlotte Christian when they came back to make it a one-score game against the Chargers. And again, it's not the season, not the postseason that Jaden had a year ago, but he found ways to win when it mattered most. Man, did he threw some absolute dimes to his guys when they needed it the most. We saw a couple of picks. Raven Gap is a really, really formidable foe. They've got a guy, Trey Horn, who's on his way to Georgia Tech maybe yesterday. They do the tri-semester thing, so his schooling was done prior to Friday night's game at Raven Gap. He committed to Georgia Tech. He's going to be an early enrollee. So he literally was finishing out his time at Raven Gap with a 4 rushing score performance in a state championship game, even though the Eagles came up just short. But, in the end, you can't ask for anything more. Providence Day scored and got a 2-point conversion with 19 seconds to go, and that was the difference. It was an incredible, incredible game.
Absolutely an incredible game. And like you said, that Providence Day offense in that last minute, just what an incredible, incredible moment there for them. And we're going to have Chad.
We're going to break down that game.
Yeah, we're going to break down that game with the head coach, Chad Grier, who's joining us in studio here in just a few minutes. For this coming Friday night, hey, our Bahakel Sports Game of the Week, another great one. I mean, as we talk about 2 neighborhood rivals, we know what these games mean during the regular season, but in the postseason, a completely different ball game. Second time they'll meet this season, Butler hosting Independence. Daron, this could be a classic.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the dream scenario. We've been away from the public school bracket for a couple of weeks with our Game of the Week covering the NCISAA championships. And when we started with the semifinal in the other bracket, we were keeping eyes, obviously, on what's going on in the public schools. And Reggie and I remember, had a conversation. We were like, well, look, if things go a certain way, we could come back after doing a state championship game and we could get an Indy Butler rematch. And at the time, it was like Indy is the underdog in a lot of these matchups, or all of these matchups so far. They're the 23 seed, although I think we all sort of knew they're better than that coming into postseason play. But you never know, right? And Butler's had some tough matchups, but that's the really impressive thing about both of these teams, whether it's the 6 seed Butler or the 23 seed Independence, it's been imposing wins. You wouldn't know. You could flip the numbers and it wouldn't make any difference between these two, especially as close and competitive and contentious as that game was in the regular season. I mean, this is a game that, because of the buzz in the past, they have moved to a neutral site. I know there's a lot of talk about whether or not that would have been the case this week. I think it was 2009, one of the last times that this happened. It was played at Providence. They've moved it to Memorial Stadium before. Wherever these two teams play, heck, I'll go back to Rabun Gap, Georgia, if they want to play there. I'm there because it's going to be that good.
Absolutely. Now, Daron, one more for you. The 1 seed in the West, Weddington, playing host to Grimsley, who lost in the state championship last season. Grimsley will be making the trip from Greensboro, and they've knocked off a couple of teams when they've been at home from our area.
Right.
So thoughts on this one as they come into our side of the state?
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting game. And obviously for our viewing area's interest, for our game of the week interest, I think we're sort of rooting for Weddington to pull out a victory and host the winner of Indy and Butler next week so we can cover that one. But it's going to be a tall task. Grimsley is a really, really solid team. They've got a lot of contributors from that season a year ago back for them, including in the running game where they are really dangerous. But Weddington, man, Andy Capone says it every year. Their goal, one of their biggest goals, is to practice after Thanksgiving. Well, they're going to have a walkthrough on Friday. That's it. You know, that's. I mean, I guess that maybe meets the criteria for the Warriors, unless he means we want to win that game so that we can have a true traditional practice next week. I'm sure he'll take the latter. But it's just what Weddington does, man. They take care of business. I think people questioned whether or not they were going to be the number 1 seed. And I heard Capone say in an interview on Friday night, he kind of did too, right? He was like, well, I don't know that we earned that. I don't know that we deserved it, but we'll take it. So they've been beneficiaries of that home field advantage. And you got to take every small difference you can in a matchup like one they'll have against Grimsley, where the margin for error is going to be razor thin. So we've got, man, on the 4A West side, we've got four teams, 2 really, really intriguing games left.
It's going to be a great Friday night. 3 teams, like you said, from our area. Hey, Daron Vaughn, as always, thanks for your time, man. Looking forward to hearing the call Friday night on our Bahakel Sports Game of the Week. It's a good one, folks. Butler and Indy, you can catch it live on BahakelSports.com this Friday night, starting at 7 o'clock. Daron, thank you, my man. And just a huge thanks to Daron Vaughn and Reggie Walker and what they do on Friday nights. They've been calling games for us last season and this season. They do a great job, a wealth of knowledge when it comes to high school football here in the Queen City, so we thank them for that. So like I said, check out Friday night on BahakelSports.com. It's our game of the week. It is the showdown between Independence and Butler, and that game kicks off at 7 o'clock. Now, we talked a little bit, and you heard Daron talk a little bit about Providence Day. They won their 3rd straight state championship for the independent schools last Friday night down in Rabun Gap. And over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've really gotten to know Coach Chad Grier, the head coach there, and just a fantastic coach, even a better person. If you've ever had a chance to kind of talk with him for a few minutes, he just does wonderful things at Providence Day. He does wonderful things in our community and for our kids, and just big props to head coach Chad Grier and what he means. Now, he also joined us on Game On, which you can always stream on BahakelSports.com. It's kind of a weekly show where we try to talk high school football. We've done volleyball, soccer. This week's show was a little more geared toward football, so apologize for that. But anyway, head coach Chad Grier had a chance to talk with us, and here's what he had to say about Friday night and what that state championship meant to him and his team. Jack Taylor.
Yep, and for this segment, we welcome into the studio the head coach of the Providence Day Chargers, Chad Grier. Coach, welcome, and thanks for coming on to join us.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So to start off, Coach, obviously congrats on the win this past Friday night. 3rd straight. How does it feel to have that after all this, the way the season went?
Yeah, it feels pretty dang good. Pretty good. Yeah, I'm really super proud of our coaches and our kids, man. They put so much into it, and to get it done was really special.
When we think about it, how much did losing earlier in the season, Rabun Gap, play motivation toward Friday night? I mean, you were playing for a state championship, but was there a little extra motivation because of the loss earlier?
Yeah, maybe. I think it was more, for us. I think the blessing in it is that we're not so sure we'd have beat them a second time. The first time our coaches did a great job of going back and evaluating that game, making some adjustments that were important. That if had we won that game, we may not have made those adjustments the second time. So if we're going to win one of the two, we won the one we wanted to win. That's right.
Absolutely. So now in the second half, there were a couple times your team was down double digits, somehow finding a way to claw back and get into this game. Talk a little bit about what drove that, that momentum to get back into it.
The real answer is that football is a practice sport. We worked 8 months to get ready to play this season, and that come down to one game. And our philosophy has always been train to win on the last play of the game. Prepare yourselves to win on the last play of the game. And we hadn't had to do that a lot this year, but we went into that game expecting that to be the case, and our guys made it happen.
And Jordan Shipp was playing, with half a hand down. Talk a little bit about how he was able to push through these last few games.
Well, he's a tough kid. I mean, mentally and physically. And, he had a pretty serious finger injury, missed 2 games. But for him to come back and compete the way he did, I'm not surprised. I mean, he's what they call a dog. He's the real deal.
Go play. So another state championship, 3 in the last 3 years. Talk about the senior class and the leadership that they've brought to this team and what they mean to you.
Man, I really not allowed myself to go there yet, but it's coming. Reality's going to hit me in the face as soon as we get back in the weight room. Right. Really exceptional group of seniors and leaders, the big 4, if you will, the guys that everybody knows about. Brody, Jordan, Jaden, Channing, exceptional players, exceptional leaders. It just will be. They've been such an integral part of building this thing. We've done it together, and to not have them will be different. But at the same time, we've got a lot of guys coming back that they've set a great example for, and we're excited for the future.
And when I think about that last-minute drive, in the final moments there and watching it, just the calmness, they're just the leadership of, especially Jaden Davis, just that last minute, the calmness that seemed to be out on the football field. That comes from coaching, I got a feeling.
Well, maybe in spite of coaching sometimes. but Jaden's certainly a very poised young man. I think mature beyond his years. He's experienced success at a level a lot of kids don't get to experience, but there's a price that comes with that, and he's developed very thick skin as a result, and he just doesn't get too down when things aren't going his way, and when we needed him most, he really stepped up.
You talk about the pieces you're going to lose, those senior class, that's hard to replicate, but then speak a little bit about the pieces you've added. Guys like Ian Klein, who had a huge impact throughout your season. What's going to mean to have some of these talented players step up into that role?
We've got a lot of great kids coming back. I mean, Ian certainly is a special young man. I mean, first and foremost, great student, great kid, and really deserves the success he's earned. David Sanders, obviously, noticed we got his number here.
There we go.
Yeah, but he's a special young man and a special talent, obviously. But guys like David and other kids in that class have been there again since I've got there. So while I'm losing the seniors that from the high school level started through, there was some middle school players that have been with us from the beginning that understand the culture, understand what it takes. So I think we've got a great foundation to continue to have success.
Absolutely. Now for the 4A public schools, 3 of the final 4 schools are Weddington, Indy, Butler, a lot of local programs that had a great run. What does that say about just how much Charlotte football has come up in high school in the last few years?
I mean, I don't think that's even just come up. I think Charlotte football has been great for a long time. I think that we've added, as the city's grown, more and more great players have emerged and people more aware of maybe. I think that from a recruiting perspective, it's kind of the mini Atlanta now, where we used to get a lot of MAC schools coming and picking off guys. You're getting now attention from national Power 5 schools, and that's deserved. We got great talent in the area, a lot of great coaches, fun programs to watch. I'm excited for these games coming up this weekend.
That's easy to say when you have one of the top linemen in the country who's getting scouted all over the country.
That's right.
So final question, we'll put you on the spot here because we don't know the answer, and we've been asked many a times. Can you explain the Raven Gap, being in NCISAA, how did that come about? And you're talking about Georgia school, but you're playing for the state championship for North Carolina independent schools in Georgia. Do you know the story of how that came about?
I don't know the official story, but they've been in our league for a long time.
Okay.
And they're really good people up there. I think that they're akin to the Christ School and Nashville School, and right across the state line. So I think it helped from competitive. Having games, you have to travel 4 hours for those schools. I think that's probably how they got into it, I assume. But they've been here a long time. Nobody seemed to really care when they weren't good in football. Now all of a sudden they're really
now they're
good.
Attention.
Yeah, they're really good in football, and they get attention as they should. And it's a fair question. I mean, to travel out of state, play your state championship game, but it was pretty sweet to win it up there.
Yeah, did what you need to do. Coach, congratulations. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Hey, get some rest.
We'll do it.
I know you won't do it long because you got to start thinking about next season.
Yeah, get started back.
So congratulations to Chad Grier, the Providence Day Chargers, and winning their 3rd straight state championship for the independent schools. Just a phenomenal football team, one of the best in our area. I'd love to see them get a chance to play Butler. I think that'd be kind of an interesting take there to see what would happen there. But congratulations to them. Now, also when we talk about football, this coming weekend after Thanksgiving, there is an Elite All-Star game that's played right here in Charlotte. It's actually called the Elite All-Star Middle School Game. It was created about 10 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Glenn DeVoe, and he runs something called Camp Lyman, geared toward defensive linemen, offensive linemen, but over the years it's kind of morphed into quarterback coaching. A lot of stuff when it comes to really helping young kids, both elementary and middle school kids, develop into high school players, and then he walks with them through high school as they get ready to go off to college. It's just kind of a great program. But Saturday at Charlotte Christian, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, they will play the Elite All-Star Middle School game, and here's a little look at what that's all about.
It's year number 9. Excited all over again, just like it was year 1.
Over 90 middle school players from 8 states have gathered in Charlotte for Saturday's Elite All-Star Middle School game. For Glenn DeVoe, the mind behind it all, it is another chance to see kids grow.
I mean, just another opportunity to pour into these young men and just give them a platform where they could just display their talents.
For the players, it is indeed a chance to shine.
I'm very excited. I think it's a great opportunity for me to get better and learn some stuff from different people and move around and play with different people and learn and experience what it is to really be the best of the best.
I'm really excited. I think it's a great opportunity to, I guess, expand my knowledge and get better at the game.
While the coaches hope to grow these young men into better football players, they also want to make sure they understand all that goes into being a well-rounded athlete.
You know, we have 3 cardinal principles: character, discipline, classroom excellence. Those are things that just kind of permeate through everything from the instruction on the field to off the field, staying in contact with these kids through the off season, just to let that be a part of their ritual.
And that message resonates with the players.
Yeah, of course. I think it's very important for us to be great men on and off the field. It's just as important in the classroom as well.
So as you can see, it's a lot of football. Of course, it is the end of November. So from high school playoff games to the middle school game, it's going to be a great few days of football around our area. So make sure if you get a chance, you head over to one of the high schools, whether it's Weddington or Butler, and check out those playoff games, or head out to Charlotte Christian on Saturday and check out some great middle school ball games. It's going to be awesome. And we want to talk also real quick about soccer. And let me talk to you a little bit about South Mech, the Sabres. The boys soccer team, they won the state 4A championship, and they did it in really what I think is an historic fashion. Excuse me. They were the 24 seed. They went and played every playoff game on the road to get to the state championship game. And in that state championship game, that went through regular time, through overtime, and into a shootout, which they ended up winning over Apex Friendship. And I had a chance to talk to the players and the coach, and it was just, an historic run. And the cool part about it was they were the 24 seed, but if you talk to them, they didn't think they were the 24 seed. They just thought that they were a team that was capable of winning a state championship, and that's kind of the message that the coach kind of preached to them all during their postseason run. So congratulations to South Mech, the Sabres, winning that state 4A championship. So we're going to wrap it up. It's a little quicker version of the 704 podcast. 3, 2, 1. So that is it for this week's edition of the 704 High School Highlight Podcast, kind of a condensed version. We'll pick it up after Thanksgiving. We'll have a special guest joining us each and every week. This podcast normally comes out on Friday, so make sure you check us out wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to pages, you like stuff, you comment. We'd love to keep in touch with you, know what's going on. And, of course, let me give you 3 things then. Make sure you check out the Blitz every Friday night at 11 o'clock for all the high school football highlights. The sports team is out there covering all of that. So make sure you check that on Friday nights as we go through the rest of the playoffs. Make sure you check out Game On. That comes out every Monday at 7 o'clock on BahakelSports.com. And you can check that out. We talk all sports. We're not just football, not just basketball. We try to talk a little bit about everything. And then, of course, always check out the podcast here. Also, stay with BahakelSports.com. Go to our website. Go to all of our social media. Check out what we're doing. We're really just trying to kind of get into the community, the high school community, and really just kind of show everybody the wonderful stuff that's going on here in Charlotte when it comes to high school sports. There's so many great stories, so many great athletes, great coaches, great programs. The Queen City is a great place for high school sports. So enjoy your holiday, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We will see you next week right here on the 704 High School Highlight Podcast. Of course, brought to you by the Downer Law Firm, Charlotte's hometown legal team. We thank them for all they do for high school sports here in the area. And until next week, we'll see you then.